At AIReal Yoga, we have 2 separate hammock kits. You can also buy all the gear separately, but in our kits we have our hammock kit for above 9 feet 6 inches and hammock kit for below 9 feet 6 inches. So this is the kit that you'll get if your ceiling is below 9 feet 6 inches. It's going to be our kit that has slings. So instead of using the daisy chain, we're going to be using the slings to adjust the height. It's going to come with a quick link. The quick link typically will attach to your point, whatever your point may be, whether it's an eye bolt or another sling. And then the swivel will be attached to your quick link. The swivel is what allows it to spin. And then you'll have a carabiner attached to the swivel, and the carabiner is also attached to 2 slings that are in a prusik knot at the end of each hammock. I'm going to show you how to tie this prusik knot. You'll have a tail. We'll also just be putting a simple knot as a safety knot at the end of it. And then I'll show you how we can adjust the height with the prusik knots. So this is what's included in your hammock kit below from AIReal Yoga: quick link, swivel, carabiner, 2 slings, and a hammock, color of your choice. I'm going to show you how to use your slings to tie a prusik knot in your AIReal Yoga hammock. So first off, you need to prep your hammock to make sure your ends are even. If you don't know how to do that, please watch the video Prep Your AIReal Hammock, and then you'll know how to get your ends even so you're prepared to make your prusik knot. So we're going to want to have a bit of a tail. So I'm holding on to one end of the hammock. And I usually like to have at least a foot or 2 of tail when I'm using the sling and beginning to wrap the prusik knot. So you'll use one of the slings. You'll notice that there's a tag on your sling, and this tells you the rating. And it's attached to where there's a sewn part. So the webbing is sewn together to make this loop. I like to turn it inside out, and so when I fold it in half, the tag is on the inside. That's not a safety thing, but it just takes the tag on the inside so it doesn't stick out. So we're going to be folding this sling in half. You want to have that sewn part at the top. What you'll notice is that sewn part doesn't really bend very well, so we don't want that to be in the wrap of the prusik knot. So I'm folding it in half, holding on to where that sewn edge is. Now I'm going to take that folded in half sling, and I'm going to put the sewn part at the top and hold that with my other thumb. So I'm holding it just below the sewn part. Now this bottom I'm going to wrap around twice. You need to wrap a prusik knot a minimum of 2 times. If you just do it once, you're just choking it and the hammock could slide and be dangerous. If your sling is really long, then you can wrap it more times if necessary. But what you'll get in the AIReal Yoga kit is a sling that works perfect when you wrap it twice. So I'm going to take that end and put it under, and I'm going to wrap it around 1 and then wrap it around again 2. Now on that bottom loop, I have to open it up because I'm going to put this opening through the top part that is sewn. And this is called choking it. So I'm going to open it up, put that sewn part through, and then pull the sewn part through. So now I have my prusik knot, pulling it tight. I'll put a carabiner in it so it doesn't come undone, and I'll show you how to do the other side. Well, ultimately, we're just going to do it again, a little review. So I'm holding on to the hammock. I have my sling folded in half. Sewn part is at the top. This bottom one is going to wrap around once, twice. I'm going to open it up and choke it through the top part, pull it tight, pulling down on both sides of the hammock so it's nice and tight. Now I'm going to put the other end in that same carabiner. So the carabiner has the end of both of our slings, and both of our slings are in a prusik knot. To add a safety knot, you're going to take the tail and simply just add a knot. It doesn't have to be any fancy knot, just a knot is going to be enough. And this is going to help prevent it from sliding off when you're adjusting it. It's really not necessary for the prusik knot to be tight, but when we adjust it, sometimes we slide too fast and then we have a tendency to slide the sling off the hammock. So it's also nice just as an added safety. If you ever do see it sliding, it could potentially protect it from sliding all the way out. So again, another knot into this second end. So when you tie these safety knots, let's get it over here. There you go. Sorry. And when you tie these safety knots, you want to make sure that there's at least, I say, like 2 fingers distance before the knot. You don't want the knot right up into the sling. You need a little bit of space, especially because when you're going to be tightening it, you need to pull down on both ends, both sides, to tighten it. So making sure that this knot has at least an inch or 2 away from your sling. And we're going to be adjusting it, and so this tail is going to be getting shorter and longer as we adjust it. So ultimately, I'm all tangled up. There you have it. This is how we tie our prusik knots in our hammock. This carabiner then is going to attach to our swivel, and then the quick link is attached to the swivel. You need to turn it to tighten it, and it will be attached to whatever your point is. I also like to turn the carabiner so the wide part is at the bottom holding both of the slings, and it just seems to fit a little bit better. That's not a safety, that's more of a preference. So how do we change the height now? All right, now that this is hanging, I'm going to do this down here, and then I'll show you another version of once it's hung. But I'd like to show you just how we're going to adjust it. Ultimately, we're going to keep it in the carabiner and just try and loosen that choke a little bit. Once it's loose, then we're going to turn it vertical. So if I want to shorten my hammock, I need to make the tail longer. So I would want the tail facing up, and I would pull it up and through. Now to tighten it, I need to pull down on both sides to tighten it. If I want to loosen it, if I want to shorten it, I'm going to loosen it a little bit, and then I need to make the tail shorter. So I'm going to add the tail down. I'm going to grab on just above that sling and pull it through. To then tighten it, we have to pull down on both sides. So if you have a ceiling 9 foot 6 inches and below, you're probably using our hammock kit with slings. So I'm going to show you how to adjust your hammock height with the slings. And the slings are in the hammock in a prusik knot, and you will be lengthening the tail and shortening the tail. So first off, when you're making these adjustments, you want to be working around your head height. So if I were to try to make the adjustments, say I'm reaching above my head, it's going to be very challenging for me to do it. And so I'm going to come up so it's at least at my head height, or I could even be higher too. You want to work in a way that feels comfortable, but also so you'll be able to put this vertical when adjusting. So to adjust the hammock height, you're gonna have your tails, and your tails are gonna go longer or shorter. So if we make this tail shorter, it brings the hammock up and shortens the hammock if you need the hammock to be higher. And if we make this tail shorter, it lengthens the hammock, so the hammock will be lower. In order to make that adjustment, you're going to come up to where you see your sling wrapped in a prusik knot, and you're really just gonna loosen it a little bit. You're not gonna take it off the carabiner, just loosen it. And then you need to make the adjustment vertically. So I'm gonna make the tail longer, which is gonna shorten the hammock. So I'm gonna grab, you'll see right above that where that sling is, I'm gonna pull the tail up. Now that the hammock is shorter, I'm going to tighten that prusik knot by pulling down on both sides. You always wanna pull down on both sides after you make that adjustment. And if I want to make the tail shorter, which is then going to bring the hammock down and make it longer, I'll do the same thing, just opposite. So again, loosen it. And then now instead of the tail being up, I'm going to have the tail down, but we still need to go this vertical. And we're just going to simply pull up, and that's going to shorten the tail. And then we're going to pull down on both sides to tighten it. So for safety, we have this additional safety knot. Ultimately, it's there because as we are adjusting, a lot of times we adjust so fast that we actually just pull the whole hammock through the prusik knot. So the knot is to help prevent that. But also it's another safety of maybe if you did tie a prusik knot incorrectly, you could see that the tail is getting shorter and it's sliding. So it would be a good little clue to check your rigging and retie the knot. When we are adjusting this, you have these tails and they could be different lengths, but you always want to have at least 2 inches before the knot next to the sling. So see how here I have about 3 inches, so that's great, so I can pull down on each side, but you don't want the knot right up at the sling. So I'm going to show you what you don't want. So we're going to loosen this, and then I'm going to get the tail shorter, but do you see now how I went up right at the knot? This actually changes how the prusik knot looks, as it's now a little like tilted, and it's not as safe this way, nor do you have any space to pull down and tighten it. So this would not be good. You need to have at least 2 inches, or at least like enough for your fingers to grab on to pull down. So let's pull this up, make sure we have some space. So now that would be a good minimum as we pull down for your prusik knot. So you have space on each side to pull it down. Again, let's lengthen the tail, shortening the hammock. Vertical, a little bit loose on the sling. Pull the tail up, that's shortening the hammock. Then you pull down on each side to tighten, and make sure you have your safety knots in.